The high, thin air of the Himalayas is a place of profound silence, where the world feels ancient and slow. Down on the broad expanse of the central Rongbuk Glacier, beneath the immense north face of Mount Everest, the team was moving with purpose. They were there filming a documentary, following in the footsteps of giants, but you were not prepared for what the mountain would reveal. The ice, a river frozen in time, had begun to shift and melt in the warming sun. In that stark, white landscape, something out of place caught their eye. It did not belong to the world of rock or ice, a relic from another era. They walked closer, their hearts beat faster with curiosity and reverence. It was a climbing boot, old leather, partially buried in the ice. They knelt down and saw it was attached to a sock and a human foot. The moment felt surreal, suspended between present and a century-hidden past. Eric Rupka and Mark Fisher gathered around the find. They knew this was no ordinary find. With immense care, they lifted the wool sock. Stitched into the fabric was a small red label. It spelled a name every climber knows: A.C. Irvine. The letters vibrated with history. Andrew Sandy Irvine, the Oxford student who vanished with George Mallory in 1924, had been found. It was monumental and deeply emotional. Sometimes the greatest discoveries happen when one is not looking. They were on Everest to tell a story, and they became part of it. The boot had likely melted out just a week or so earlier, revealed by changing ice after a century. The mountain went from vast and impersonal to intensely personal. They felt Sandy Irvine's presence, a young man who walked this ground dreaming of the summit. To understand why finding Sandy Irvine's boot matters so much to the team, you have to go back to the spring of 1924. The world was a different place. Climbing Everest was the ultimate prize of exploration, a symbol of human endurance against nature. George Mallory was already a climbing hero in Britain, a man obsessed with the mountain. Asked why he wanted to climb Everest, he said, "Because it is there." Experienced, determined, on his third expedition. At his side was a young, strong, mechanically gifted Oxford student, Andrew Sandy Irvine. He was a powerful rower and a natural innovator with the experimental oxygen apparatus. He kept finicky equipment alive in brutal cold and thin air. Together they were experience and youthful energy, Britain's best hope. On June 8, 1924, they set out from High Camp. They were last seen as two black dots moving upward. Clouds rolled in, and they disappeared from view forever. Their disappearance became one of mountaineering's greatest mysteries. In 1999, Mallory's body was discovered, but no proof of a summit. The boot itself was a museum piece, a window into the past. Thick, hobnailed leather, a stark contrast to modern boots. The team could feel the brutal conditions the early climbers faced. The boot was not empty. Inside, a foot preserved by the ice. The sock and its label provided irrefutable evidence. A.C. Irvine, a message from a century ago. The quiet glacier had given up a secret since 1924. Found on the central Rongbuk Glacier, lower than where they were last seen. Glaciers move and carry objects for miles over decades. Likely his body rests higher, the glacier delivering this piece to us. Everest's extreme cold acts like a deep freeze, slowing decay. That is why Mallory's body endured, and why this boot survived. As the ice recedes, the mountain reveals long-held secrets. Discovery became their responsibility. They were custodians of a significant human and historical artifact. Before moving it, they secured a small DNA sample. They packed it into a cooler to keep it frozen and protected. They contacted the China-Tibet Mountaineering Association, the authority on this side of Everest. They turned over the cooler, entrusting the next steps of identification and study. The discovery is monumental when it reignites a question: where is his camera? Irvine reportedly carried a vest pocket Kodak on the final push. If they stood on the summit, a photo might exist. That camera and film are the Holy Grail. One image could rewrite history, proving a 1924 summit would predate Hillary and Tenzing by 29 years. But first, it must be found, in vast, shifting, dangerous terrain. Even then, recovering images after a century is unlikely. Freeze-thaw, moisture, and radiation degrade film. Yet advances in conservation keep hope alive. If tightly sealed, a canister might preserve something. Hope is powerful. For the world, this is thrilling history. For his family, it is deeply personal. Julie Summers, Sandy's great-niece and biographer, has lived with this story all her life. She was moved to tears, calling it extraordinary and poignant. To them, he was Uncle Sandy, not a legend. The news brought shock and relief. They provided DNA to help confirm the identity. It brings a form of closure, a tangible link to the young man who never returned. His story feels real again, not just a tale in a book. For them, it is about bringing a piece of their family home. Scientific confirmation will answer what became of Sandy's body. It provides a final resting place, a known point on the mountain he loved. Well, it is a closing and also a form of peace. In mountaineering, it is the biggest news since Mallory was found in 1999. Excitement aside, the path forward requires patience and rigorous science. The boot and remains were turned over to the proper authorities. The China-Tibet Mountaineering Association will oversee next steps. Forensic and archaeological work takes time. Experts will learn what they can from the boot, the sock, and the human remains. DNA analysis is the first major milestone. The sample was delivered to the British consulate for comparison with the family's DNA. Scientific confirmation will close this chapter with certainty. Future searches require caution. Any expedition must meet the highest standards of safety and ethics. The mountain is sacred, and it is a grave. The quest for answers cannot cost new tragedies. We may never find the camera, or its film may be blank. Glacier movement is powerful and chaotic. Artifacts can be crushed, buried, and scattered. Experts warn the odds of recoverable images are slim. Still, hope guides careful science. In the end, the boot is more than an artifact. It is a symbol. It links a hopeful young man in 1924 to his family today. The discovery does not answer all our questions, but it breathes new life into them. With the search area narrowed, will the rest of Irvine and the camera be found? For the Irvine family, there is already a measure of peace. The mountain still holds the ultimate answer, and today they are one step closer.